Defining fascism is tricky. Fascism is an extreme form of nationalism, and nationalisms, by definition, are different from one another, so it's very hard to make generalizations. It's also the fact that there are really only two fascist regimes that were in power for any length of time, and they came to power under different kinds of circumstances, so it's hard to make those kinds of definitions. Nevertheless, we can talk about some common themes. I think maybe a good way to start would be to say that fascism is a form of political behavior in which a charismatic leader with a determined group of loyal followers attempts to mobilize some form of mass nationalist movement by exploiting themes of victimization and the threats that exist from a set of internal and external enemies. So you can take a look at Mussolini in the early 1920s. Italians felt that they had not gotten what they wanted out of the First World War. And there was great fear among the middle classes and the propertied of the specter of the Russian Revolution and the strength of the Italian labor movement and fears of a socialist revolution. And Mussolini was very effectively able to mobilize a large amount of support by exploiting these fears. Hitler famously identified the Jews as his main target, both within Germany and as a force within world history as a whole. The problem with coming up with generalizations about fascism is, of course, that neither of these regimes really had coherent programs. Unlike liberalism or conservatism, fascism is not a coherent philosophy with a set of policies that they can promise will be enacted. Instead, fascism is a set of aggressive postures, a promise to act decisively, a promise even to use violence without, unconstrained by normal moral considerations in order to attack these enemies of the nation that they identify. Now, movements such as these existed in many parts of Europe. Most of them didn't get very big, and none of them, even Mussolini and Hitler, were able to take power without receiving some kind of help from traditional elites. It's important to remember that neither Mussolini nor Hitler seized power, although that became part of their mythology afterwards. They came to power legally through the democratic process. Once fascist regimes are in power, they are free to realize the radical implications of their program, to target those enemies decisively. And here again we have major differences. Anti-Semitism becomes a major organizing theme for the Nazis after they take power in 1933. Mussolini is relatively uninterested in persecuting Italian Jews, and although Italian Jews do eventually faced the deportation in the Second World War, this is largely the Italian is essentially acquiescing to their German allies' wishes. So this kind of definition of fascist regimes is a very general one, and you can still see today that there are places in the world where charismatic leaders are attempting to mobilize these very same kinds of fears. Should we call them fascists? Well, until they seize power, we won't really know what their intentions are. But I think it is fair to say that the model remains attractive for nationalists in many parts of the world.